So before I do this, I'm going to check the watch. So I'm on time. Okay, click, please. Thank you. Okay, but where am I coming from? Who am I working for? A few of you may know the TUM, the Technical University of Munich. I am not from the university. So I am from the TUM International, which is a subsidiary of the university itself. And click one more time, please. And we are a 100% subsidiary of the university. So we are the industrial arm of the university. We do consulting and project missions with regard to the development of industry sites, scientific sites, production sites, and we have an additional competence center called Inside Bavaria that is specified on topics around industry parks, about cluster management, and creating ecosystems where innovation takes place. So, as you can see, this map, to be honest, is not completely up to date. We do have projects all over the world. We have some more now in Southern America, and we are starting another one in Ghana and Africa, for example. And we have quite the strong exchange also with the Jordan University, which is why I'm very happy to be here. Thank you again for the invitation. And yes, I specifically was responsible, or am still responsible, for our project over here in Malaysia, and I will get into that in a little bit. So, the Technical University of Munich is one of the largest universities that we have in Germany. We have more than 42,000 students, and 30% or more than 30% by now are coming from abroad. So, we have a lot of national knowledge, but also international knowledge. And one of our founding fathers was Karl Marx von Bauernfeind. He, from the beginning, which was 150 years ago, said, okay, we need to combine science with the industry. We cannot just leave science by itself, not applying it straight to the industry. And he, from the beginning, pushed the whole idea of innovating in a circle, not just the university as an island, but together also with the industry and the government. Okay, perfect. And this is also where we come from. So whenever we talk about innovation ecosystems, what does this mean? What kind of basis do we need in order to create innovation or to give people the initiative to create new ideas? So these three stakeholders will probably be very normal. You know them all. It's the university, of course, as the education driver and the driver of new ideas in terms of scientific ideas. Then we have the industry, and of course the government that needs to enable the policies needed in order to bring new ideas forward. But it doesn't stop there. So in our opinion, we need an even bigger ecosystem. We need more parts built around those three stakeholders, which could be those. So, for example, one thing that the TUM is doing as well is focusing on the incubator and accelerator. In Germany, we have a very strong startup culture, and also from the TUM, we have, in 2018, we had 80 new companies deriving from the university itself, and there are, of course, more and more startups coming in to create new ideas and young people wanting to step outside the corporate area in order to try something new and to risk something also. And if we add that together with an arena where those startups and also spin-offs of companies are able to prototype things in a safe area where they can try new things, and we combine that again with a technology transfer center that really focuses on combining the knowledge that's in the university with the practical experience from the industry, that's when we keep the ball rolling. So, as it says on the top, our goal as TUM International and Inside Bavaria is to create such an ecosystem, to go into different countries, to talk about different stakeholders and to support them building up such an ecosystem. But there's more to it. We don't only need the stakeholders themselves. There are some more parts that make sure that actually this innovation ecosystem works in the end. I'm not going to go into details of all of them, but very classic is usually the close physical proximity. Of course, one can argue nowadays with the digitalization we may not need this as much, but even so, close proximity geographic-wise makes it easier to create things such as circular economy, industrial symbiosis, things like that. Sorry, one minute. Sorry. And one other thing that I wanted to point out is also the high degree of knowledge and, more importantly, knowledge sharing. So it's not just about knowledge at one spot, but creating an environment where knowledge is being passed on. And we heard it before also in the keynote speeches in the morning that knowledge, if it stays just with one person, it doesn't really help. We need to encourage the people. Thank you. So that much for the theoretical background. Just check. Okay. So now let me see, or talk a little bit about how do we use those ideas and those concepts in a practical environment? How can we actually bring life into this? So in Malaysia, we have built up a project which is called ACES. ACES stands for the Asian Center of Excellence for Smart Technologies. Smart technologies, why? Because we figured, okay, right now we have Industry 4.0. Who knows, maybe someday we're talking about Industry 5.0. And in that case, we wanted to make sure that we are not limited to that. So we wanted to show we're talking about smart technologies in general. And who is working with whom? So as you can see, we've got TUM International with our competence center inside Bavaria. And we are working together with our project partner in Malaysia, who is ECRDC, short for East Coast Economic Region Development Council. I'll get into that in a little bit. And so on our side, from TUM International, we are of course very close with our research part, because we've got the technical university on our side. While on the other side, in Malaysia, which is where we want to introduce smart technologies and support the industry and the universities there, that's where we have the direct link to the government and to the industry in order to make this work. Getting a little bit deeper now. So, East Coast Economic Region. Now I'm interested. Who has been to Malaysia before? Anyone? Okay, quite a few people. That's nice to see. So, as you may know, Malaysia is split into, well, Peninsula Malaysia, which is this part. Just for orientation, this down here is Singapore. So up there we have Thailand. And then another part of Malaysia is actually on a different island, which I'm not going to go into that now, because the area that interests us most is the one you see here. This is the East Coast Economic Region. And from the past, that region, compared to the West Coast, has been lacking when it comes to the introduction of smart technologies and Industry 4.0, and especially the SMEs have a hard time to become aware of the changes that are happening and how important it is for them to be disruptive or to introduce new technologies if they want to stay competitive, specifically when it comes to the big brother, China. So when we talk about smart technologies, right now, nowadays, of course, we're talking about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is mainly the 9 pillars of Industry 4.0. I think most of you have heard about them. We've actually heard a little bit this morning as well in the keynote speech from the chairman, and where he was introducing also some of the things that they're doing at their company to introduce new areas that are arriving from those 9 pillars. And once we take those 9 pillars, what do we do with them? What do we do with Industry 4.0? What is ACES doing? So ACES is actually a service provider, if you like. We are looking into 3 different areas, which is the incubator and startup accelerator. We are doing a technology and application center and a qualification and capability building. And all this is surrounded by the innovation park. What does all this mean now? So what do we actually do there? Let's first look at the Technology and Application Center. This means that we actually go into the universities, we go into the companies, and we ask them, where does it hurt? Where do you have problems? Where do you feel like you can optimize production, logistics, etc., etc.? For example, right now we're talking to a company building batteries, and they said that they have such a hard time in their production downtime that it's such a cost driver because they have so much data flying around, but they do not combine the data in order to create insight or in order to perform predictive maintenance, pretty much. And that's where we come in, and we look at the experts from our side in Germany, at the TUM itself, but also experts in the industry in order to help them solve the problem. And it doesn't stop there. Because of course, after solving this problem, the people have to understand how they do that themselves in the future. We do not just want to put the technology in there and having them, get back to us all the time whenever something is going wrong. They need to understand themselves how to do it in the future and how to also become better in the future. So we also do training and capability building in all different areas, which can start top-down or bottom-up. That really depends also on the company. For example, we are having an executive training in Q1 specifically for C-level management in order to understand Industry 4.0, what does it mean in general and what does it mean for me. But it can go down all the way to the blue-collar workers, giving them an idea of how they can, for example, create ideas, as we have heard before in idea management. And thirdly, what we want to do is we want to support the startups in Malaysia. We have startups internationally that want to integrate in Malaysia, but we also have startups in Malaysia in the area of Industry 4.0. And this can be done with different services. And of course, this is a long time process. All of these things are not done overnight, but we have been starting to kick things off. We're talking to the, now I'm thinking of the German word here, the so-called AHK, which is pretty much the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. It's good to have some German people in. Thank you. So the Chamber of Commerce, for example, in Malaysia, that of course also support us in supporting the startups, for example. And last but not least, so I've been talking about those 3 services. They're not standing by themselves and they're not just floating around, but the long-term goal is to create an innovation park for Industry 4.0 ecosystem, which means it's actually physical, it's buildings. We actually have a first building up where ACES is located and where we have other tenants and where we will also have the startups. And then around we will create an ecosystem specifically for digitalization, which is located in the center of the East Coast, where the whole East Coast, but also other Malaysian regions and international, other countries can come to get the input of the topics that I've just talked about. So I hope this gave you a little bit of an impression of how Industry 4.0 can be taken over also to other countries, support them, making knowledge accessible over across borders. But so far from me, and if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. Thank you.